Before we start, I'd like to mention that some of the language in all of our episodes may be interpreted as offensive. If you are easily offended, I would advise you to go and listen to another podcast. However, if you don't mind the occasional swear word or bad story, you're in for a treat. Enjoy the rest of the podcast. Welcome to episode 5 of the Average Person podcast. This is the penultimate episode of the season. Today we are joined by someone that has done his fair share of travelling and I'm sure has some great stories to share along his travels. I've grown up with Joe since going to infant school together, primary school, and then on to secondary school with him. Despite all of our differences with perhaps, maybe music choices, hobbies, or any interest that we have at all the ages that we grew older together, I've always seen him as a friend and never a stranger, even now. We were never best friends, but I think we had a lot in common, and that remained throughout and helped us stay friends. I know a lot of relationships, you're either really close with someone in a tight-knit group or you're not friends with them, but I always felt like you were a friend from afar. And I think that's quite a unique thing. And since school, we've gone our separate ways, doing different things, and we've crossed paths a few times since then. Joe, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Hello, I'm Joe. James, I thought we were best friends at school, no?
I don't know. You have to remind me of that time.
Miss Lerner. Yes, I'm Joe. I'm from Beeson Violence. I think what you said there, James, is quite. When you're a kid and like you'd see you're with your parents and they'd bump into like a friend and say, "Oh yeah, I've not seen them in 10 years, but we were friends." Back when I was a kid, I used to think, "Well, why don't you see them every week?" Because when you're a kid, you'd see your best friends and your friends every week, wouldn't you? So I guess as time goes on, you just depart, which is natural. So about me, well, James, you knew me from when I was like known as Big Joe, because I've been the same height since I was 12, and full on mustache since I was 12 as well. So I'm left-handed, and I lived abroad for 3 years, and that's what I'll probably be talking about most on this podcast.
And that is how you introduce yourself.
Thank
What
you.
would you say? What's one word or one sentence? It's the biggest thing that's changed about you since 16 years old, leaving school.
Since leaving school, like a lot of people went to university, and I wasn't very clever in that way. So I thought, went traveling with a friend, came back home for a few months, and I thought, you know what, I like that. Saved up some money, and then off I went again. So I guess learning like life skills and living with a lot of different nationalities helped me learn a lot about myself and about the world.
Yeah, no, I like that.
And that is a long sentence, yeah.
Yeah, I said sentence,
Yeah.
not paragraph. It's been a long interview.
And full stop.
I don't know about you, but I find that childhood memories seem a lot more deeply imprinted in your brain compared to like adulthood memories. And I can vividly remember things from my childhood like they were from yesterday. So, for example, my earliest memory of you is I remember you having a birthday party, and I just remember it being such a fond memory of. I think we had a barbecue at your house and then we went on to the cinema to watch Scooby-Doo. I don't know how well you remember that story, but that's such a strong childhood memory of mine. So what kind of memories can you recall perhaps from times at school, or maybe it's the same memory that I have of you and me when we were younger?
Ooh, earliest memory of you would probably be... Can you remember Ben Lord's birthday party when that dinner lady was a clown?
Yes, I do. Yeah, she would.
Can you remember that?
On the side, she would cook the magician, was it?
Yeah, magician clown on that, on that timeline. So I remember, I always remember just seeing a photo of like all of us lot with the dinner lady / clown / magician / murderer probably. So, and that was my first memory of all of us. And then the classic year 1, year 2 school photos with one of us picking our nose and one of us got a dirty jumper on and all that. So yeah, way back. We go way back.
And when you left school, I know a couple times it was the summertime, right? When we left school, where they were quite fond memories when we would go to Leah's house and have like house parties, drinking when we shouldn't have been drinking, things like that. That was probably the last time where we were consistently seeing each other, right?
Yeah, what I was gonna say, my answer was gonna be Leah's house, but obviously we were 16, 17 then, not 4 or 5 when I first met you. Yeah, I'd say that's when everyone kind of departed.
When did you fall into the working world? How soon after that? Because I mean, we were 16, nearly 17 at that point. So how did you come about with your first job?
Yeah, so in the summer holidays, I just printed out like 50 CVs. You can't even print CVs out and hand them out now, can you? It's all digital. I printed about 50 CVs, and this was about the time you're allowed to go town on your own, and it was like a big deal. And I just handed them all out. I just stayed in town until all of them were gone, and I had one interview, and I got it, and I stayed. So when people say, "Oh, I've not got a job," I've only handed out 5 CVs, and that's probably why. I remember starting work like in the October, so first couple of months into college. Started part-time working in a retail store alongside going to college in town as well.
How did you find the job interview? What was it like? Was it one of those creative ones, or was it just standard?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was a group interview, so we had to like interact and be friendly with strangers. You know how it is. And then it was a one-on-one interview afterwards. And I'd got the phone call later that day that I'd got the job. I'd only got the interview because I had the same birthday as the manager. So I don't know if my life would be different if I didn't have the same birthday.
Is that the advice you're giving people listening? Then you got to make sure you only apply at places where your date of birth shares the the boss.
Exactly, yeah. Just go in, ask when their birthday is, alter your CV to their birthday, and then that's it. I wonder what Alan Sugar's birthday is. Get me on Predators.
When working at a clothes shop, then what was it like dealing with entitled customers and difficult customers? What was that like?
Oh, that was a joy. I mean, it is. So I worked at a store called Fat Face. It is a clothing store to wear outside of the workplace. So their like motto is live life out of 9 to 5. Yeah, I mean, luckily we only had like one in a month where a customer would come in and be, a bit dramatic. So the store I worked in was Fat Face, and their motto was live life out of 9 to 5, embrace life out of the workplace. It was very surfer, exploring, kind of, going on a long walk throughout the countryside, and then you'd put on your Fat Face clothing to go to the country pub, that kind of deal. Dealing with odd customers would be, you'd brick yourself in the moment and then you'd laugh off after. Like, if you look at the bigger picture, you're having an argument with someone about a piece of clothing, so
Yeah.
you got to stick to your policies with the company, and you can't just give everything away for free.
I think everything's all about perspective. Like, this question can be difficult for me to ask, because of how it can come across. I think there's jobs out there that people love that other people hate, and jobs that people hate that other people love. But from my perspective, working in a clothes shop, I'd find it very difficult because on a day-to-day basis, I don't feel like I'm being challenged. I feel like I'm doing things over and over again. And like, would you find it tedious or like boring, like repeating the same thing over and over again, and like only really getting pissed off? Because I feel like when you work at a bigger company, Fat Face, it's not small. It's just not a small company. It's like a chain. Because you don't own the clothes, you didn't design the clothes yourself. You probably didn't get commission on the sales, or get pay rises because if you get X amount of sales. So what was it like working in that environment?
Yeah, like luckily with Fat Face, they rely on you to do a lot of the business side of things. So say your target is X amount a week and you've still got 50% of that target to make over the weekend. They expect you to put like an action plan in for your team and to rearrange stock, like look at your best sellers and use that for your advantage. Say if there's a promotion on a particular style of product that isn't doing well, why isn't it not doing well? So there was a lot. I know retail gets like a bad rep. I mean, it's going bloody extinct now, isn't it? But I think the business side of things kept everyone driven, because even though it was like retail, there was a lot of other little bits and bobs that went into it as well.
Yeah, it sounds a lot more complex than just your standard turn up and hang clothes on a rail.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people do think it is that. I mean, it is that, but there's so much more that goes into it that gets like forgotten about. Fat Face is one of those brands where they expect you to talk to customers ask them open questions, build a rapport with the customers. Like when I was there, we had people come in once a week just to say hello, you know. You go into other clothing stores and you don't even get a greeting at the door for like the first 10 minutes you're in there. So it built my confidence speaking to the public and, you know, selling as well.
Doing
No.
that for quite a few years then, did that lead you to kind of a point where you wanted to try something new? Because I know you went traveling after that, but was that the feeling you got from that job, or was there another reason why you wanted to go and travel?
Well, I wanted to go and travel at the start because I used to do kickboxing and Thai boxing.
Yeah.
My plan was to go to Thailand for a few months and to train out there, but then I injured my wrist, so then I wasn't able to go. But then my friend Robin, who's just had twins, well done, congrats, to Robin, who's just had twins. He was going traveling, so he was like, "Oh, just come with me." So I thought, "Go on in, why not?" So yeah, that was pretty much why. Like, I was 18, everyone's going to uni. I didn't want to stay home and just watch all my friends go to uni whilst I couldn't because I didn't get any of the grades, you know?
Yeah, well, I think that's a reason a lot of people go traveling, especially to the other side of the world, is to kind of at a loose end. And I think it was a good thing for you to go, because it almost sometimes feels like you're an outcast, you know, when everyone does the same thing and you're
Yeah.
the one that's not doing it.
Leaving home, you can be yourself more than you could from being in your hometown. Does that make sense?
No, I think definitely. I think it gives you, yeah, you can be definitely, because after a while, I think you kind of become. It's almost like a mold, right? Everyone expects you to be the
Yeah,
same person for your whole life, whereas if you go somewhere else, you can be the person that you want to be, and that's the person they get to know and hold you to.
yeah.
And
No, I exactly agree with you with that one.
yeah, when you first went to Australia, then was your initial thoughts travel, or did you think I need to work and then travel? How did it work out?
Well, the first time I went for 3 months. The first time, and we travelled all the way around, and then I came back home for a little while. So then the second time I went out was pretty much I'm going to be here for a couple of years. Let's work and travel at the same time, but mainly for work. But I mean, who doesn't want to work in like a really nice, hot weathered country with beaches and beer and
And your first job was at a place which I love the name, Pancake on the Rocks. Was that a bar, restaurant, or was it, am I barking up the wrong
I,
tree?
I think that's the only thing I love about it, James, is the name. No, I'm joking. Yeah, so it was a small chain. I think they have like five restaurants. So yeah, you're right. It's a restaurant, and they sell like dessert pancakes, and they sell steaks and ribs and savory
Making me hungry.
pancakes. So I worked there in Darling Harbour, which is like the harbour below Sydney Harbour. So we had a lot of tourists come and a lot of students were there as well. For my interview, I did all this prep for it, like the background of the company, the menu, the prices, did all the prep you could think of. And then I get there and they say, "Can you carry 3 plates?" I said yes, which was a lie. And then they said, "Are you going traveling anytime soon?" And I said no, which was a lie. And then I got the job, so that was it. So I'd panicked about all this, you know, prep work for it, and then they only asked me two questions. I got a job.
We're getting some great
Um,
advice from you
but
today.
same
Then.
again
So
with
basically, you just need to lie when you're in the interview, and you just get it. That's it.
that's it. I mean, you didn't hear it from me, but that's it. Fake it till you make it. You know. I wonder who was the first person who said that. Fake it till you make it, and then everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean."
I have a family friend called Anna Groves. I don't know if you know that name, but she's lived in Australia for a couple of years now. And I see the lifestyle she lived through Instagram, which I know can be
Mm,
tainted, but it seems like she lives a very extremely healthy lifestyle that revolves around nutrition and exercise. And I've heard lots of stories
mm.
about the beaches that are packed at like 6 o'clock in the morning and everyone working out together. Did you experience any of that side of Australia, or is that all a lie?
I experienced it from afar. I experienced it from the takeaway shop, like, you know, going home after a night out at 3 a.m. in the sun rising. I experienced it from that far away, yeah. So, you know, there was a lot of more healthy eating, like takeouts, and a lot more of like smoothie places. It is more encouraged because, you know, here, like when it's summer, people do tend to have a salad instead of a, you know, shepherd's pie or you know tend to go for a run instead of watch a movie. So imagine that, but for the majority of the year, you are you're going to be a bit more active. And then again, on the flip side, all the food's cheap out there. You know, like here, Domino's pizza is so expensive. Over there, you could get a large pizza, fries, and a curly whirly for like £2. So it's more persuasive to have junk food because it's so cheap.
It's interesting you say that though, because I heard Australia's extremely expensive.
It is like it can be expensive in some places, but then I mean you can say that about anywhere, can't you? So
I know, yeah. I think that when you travel, you realise that all these kind of things are just myths. Like, unless you're going to
yeah,
Norway or Denmark or somewhere where it actually is expensive, most places you can find, depends what kind of budget you're on, right?
yeah. Was it like that in New York for you? Like, because
Yeah,
a
I
lot of people
mean,
say
you
New York's
can.
expensive.
Well, pizza slices are absolutely gigantic in America. So if you're
Mm,
hungry, you want a decent snack, you just get one slice of pizza for $2, and it'll fill you up for a couple hours. But if
yeah,
you
yeah.
if you want to go to Gordon Ramsay's steak restaurant in Manhattan, then you're going to be paying a bit more money. So it's kind of what your budget's
Is that
on.
where you went?
Oh,
And would you have
no,
that?
my budget wasn't as big as yours, Joe.
Yeah, me and Gordon always.
What was it like working at Pancake on the Rocks?
It was the first restaurant I'd ever worked in, so I learned quickly that I wasn't good at it and I didn't like it. But I mean, the tips were good and the pay was good, so you can't complain. Our tips for the week covered our rent for the week, so we couldn't complain. Oh, I don't know whether to spill the tea or not, but the manager and the assistant manager, they were husband and wife, and you'd think they'd be like good cop, bad cop, but they were both bad cops. So it was like, it was a bit frustrating. I wasn't there for long because my friend went to Bali. I asked if I could have a couple of weeks off to go to Bali with him, and they said no. So I just said, okay, bye then. And I was only there for a few months.
Give me an example of why they were both bad cop.
Oh,
I'm putting you on the spot now, aren't I?
so, oh shit. Okay. I don't care. So the guy, his name was Joey, and he'd be really annoyed if like other people call me Joey or Joe. I'm like, but that's my name. That's my name. And if you were to like drop a plate or to drop a drink, or he'd threaten to send you home, like they're on the spot. It's like it's not my fault someone's like bumped into me. And then I'd forgotten the lady's name, but she was just very, very cold. Like there was no management skills. That's the word. There was no management skills whatsoever. I mean, I hope they're doing well now and all that, but
After you left Pancake on the Rocks, what was your next job?
so yeah, like I said, I went to Bali for a few weeks with my friend, and then went back to Sydney. So when you're in Oz, you have to do 3 months of like farming work to get your second year visa. So I'd applied for a job and got it, but I had like a month before I went there, and so I just went on Google, well, on Gumtree. You can find all your jobs and stuff on Gumtree there. I worked for this guy who was just knocking. So there was a big storm in Sydney, and Schweppes, the like soda brand, all of their internal offices got all destroyed, and we got paid to go in with a hammer and with like a knife and just knock down all these internal walls. So I did that for a week or so. I mean, it was a bit dodgy. Like we didn't have any like protective gear, but it was good cash. So. And then I moved to the Outback.
And it all went
That's where
downhill.
it all went downhill from there.
So when you say Outback, are you talking the middle of Australia? Like, where is the Outback for people that don't know?
Pretty much, yeah. So I was still in New South Wales. So if you can break Oz into 4 quarters, and I was in the bottom right corner, you've got New South Wales, and I was in the top left of that. So I was like a 6-hour drive from like the nearest McDonald's, 6-hour drive away from anything.
Did you ever drive 6 hours to McDonald's?
We did, yeah. Actually. I went with this. We had like a weekend off, so we went into like the nearest town called Broken Hill. Went to a supermarket and got actual real cheese because we'd been living off like classic cheese for months. So went to the supermarket, got real cheese. Went to McDonald's. Had to go to the bank. So yeah, we did drive 6 hours for Macca's. Yeah.
Living off the grid out there, then that must have been quite a tough experience working on a farm.
It was for the first 2 weeks, but I guess you'd say that with any job. Like for the first 2 weeks of any job, you're going to find it difficult because you don't know the job. You don't know what the managers are like. You don't know what the crew are like. You don't know what the customers are like. So the first couple of weeks was hard, not in the fact that I didn't want to be there, but just because it was a new job. But after that, I bloody loved it. It was incredible. I stayed for longer than I was meant to be because it was a good place to be. Yeah.
So your manager on that job was a bit better than the other two?
Yeah, Melissa, she was sound. We actually had a FaceTime last year, like when lockdown first happened.
Yeah.
We had a bit of a FaceTime and we always checking on each other. So I worked at a place called the Family Hotel in a town called Tibbaborough, and I know that is a mouthful to say. It was like a motel and a bar and a restaurant and a farm. So you did a bit on each one of the 4 sections of the property, and it was you and 3 other backpackers and then the family as well who worked there. Yeah, I loved it. I mean, it was hard work, don't get me wrong. Like you'd work like 6 days a week, but it was mint.
What would you actually have to do? What was required on the farming side? Because obviously the other's quite self-explanatory.
Yeah, I mean, so I'd wake up, I'd feed all the animals, and then I would chop some wood for the bar and for anyone else who wanted like wood in the town. Bear in mind, there was only 130 people who lived there, so we probably have that many people live on your street today, like in Beeson, So yeah, I'd wake up, feed the animals, chop some wood, I'd stock the bar, I'd change any like motel units when people were leaving, checking out, and then just work in the bar in the evening.
When you say feed the animals, a lot of people in England, they only really see Australia for like, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here with all the pets and that. And it creeps me out massively that, because like in England, we're accustomed to more like the occasional house spider. Yeah. Maybe you see a random cat, and at a push, you might be approached by a loose dog at the park. But that's about as hairy as it gets in England. So what was it like out there with spiders, snakes? I'm sure you've got some crazy stories about that.
We would feed the sheep, the horses, the cattle, the dog. So it was pretty much like pets, to be fair. I mean, there were loose kangaroos. Like at night how we'd see foxes, and it would be like, oh, there's a fox. Oh. Like out there, there'd just be tons of kangaroos just jumping around. Like you'd hear like thud throughout the night, and you're like, what the fuck is that? And it'd just be a giant kangaroo like jumping like around your back garden. But they're not going to harm you. Whilst I was there, I saw one brown snake, and yeah, didn't like that. But one snake in 6 months is, fine.
They've done quite well there then. I mean, what about spiders? I'm sure there must have been a lot of spiders.
I'm certain I still got bit by a spider to this day. Like, so I was working in the bar one night and my mouth went really numb, my tongue went numb. I mean, I could still breathe, luckily, I could still speak, but it felt like pins and needles. And then the next day, I couldn't walk on my left leg. Like, my left leg had gone completely numb. Like, what the fuck is going on? They were like, oh, you've probably just been bit. Like, it will wear off in a little bit. So for them, it's just like being bit by like a mosquito or, like an ant bite or something like that.
I remember when I was living in Africa and the room that I was given when I was living with an African family, it was kind of a room that they would use as storage before I was there. So they moved all the chairs and things to the side of the room and put a bed in there. And I had to get washed in a washing basket, basically. And I think the intention was for most people would stand in the basket and then get washed.
Yeah.
It was quite a big basket, and I've managed to bend down and like lie in it almost, but so tight in there, and I'd like pour the water on me. And one day I went to get the sponge, or I can't remember what it was, the shower gel from the side. And as I've gone to grab it, I see this spider, and the spider had this red back on it. I panic at this point. I don't care about getting washed anymore. I get out with just my eyes on this spider the whole time. And I was in a rush, which was the worst thing about it. I get some paper and start smashing the spider in a hope of trying to kill the spider. And then I leave the spider like dangling, its legs broken and everything. Stupid mistake by me. I end up taking the spider and going to work that day. And then I'm at work, I'm Googling what the hell was this spider? And on Wikipedia, I find a picture of it, and it's like I've taken the picture myself. It's the exact same spider, and it's the cousin to the black widow spider.
Oh, don't.
And I'm reading up on it, and it says it's got the same venom as a black widow, but it can't release as much. I'd be
Yeah.
hospitalized, but I wouldn't have died. So I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I'll be in hospital. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I
And
won't die.
everyone surrounding me at this point around the computer saying, oh, what spider is it? And I'm like, So anyway, I go home and the spider's gone. I left it earlier that morning and it's now gone.
Mm.
So I didn't kill it and it had moved and I don't know
Oh,
where it went
shit.
to. So the entire of my trip that was remaining, I didn't put my feet on the floor like barefoot. I was just shitting myself the entire time thinking the spider's going to come back.
Have you seen there's that stupid program where it's like the floor is lava? It sounds like that, but like the floor is venom. So
Yeah.
was that popular where you were? Were they popular like where you were, or was it like,
I
you
think
know,
it's a little
one
bit.
in 1 year?
It's almost, I think, like you were saying in Australia, like if you were to ask a local about is there lots of spiders and stuff, they'd probably say no, but there actually is a lot.
Mm.
They're used to it. So for me to just say like, oh, there was a spider in my room, they'd probably think, oh wow, yeah, okay,
Laugh at
deal with
you.
that every day, yeah. So after you work
Well, there you go.
after you work on the farm, you move to working on a super yacht, and I can't wait to hear about this.
Oh, there's not much to it. Let me just say that
Let me
there's not
down like
much to.
that.
Ah, there's
It's the whole
more. There's
reason
more
I
in the
got you
app.
on the. It's the whole reason I got you on the podcast.
So the super yacht. So my stepdad's uncle works in Sydney, and he works for like the super yacht company. They take like celebs out, and they take, you know, people of higher class out on these super yachts and take them a tour around Sydney. So pretty much my job. I was only there for a week or so because when I got back from the outback, I went straight into this job, and I went from like a lonely job from seeing the same 10 people from then going to a super yacht and seeing the only same 2 people, you know. I didn't want to go from like a lonely job to another lonely job. I didn't move out there to be by myself. So pretty much I just cleaned the yacht before a guest came on. That was it. But I was a bit nervous because you know when you go to like a harbour, I had to wheel all of this alcohol onto this yacht. But the decking was like all wobbly because of the water. So pretty much that's all I did. Clean the yacht before the party
Unload the booze.
and stock it full of unload the booze, unload all the booze. I mean, it was good. Like I enjoyed it, but I didn't want to
Do it for a while.
do it because yeah, I mean, it was fine. I mean, you know, it was good pay. So
After you've gone on the super yacht, then you find yourself at a surf shop, and I think I remember. I mean, I won't be able to recall any exact stories, but I feel like I saw either a couple pictures or a couple stories that you put on Facebook about working at the surf shop. So was that quite a fond memory or highlight of the trip working there?
yeah, so I worked. So it's called Surf Dive and Ski. So they sell surfing gear, skating gear, and like scuba equipment and stuff like that. Everyone who worked there were incredible. I don't think there was one person there who was, you know, not a 10 out of 10. So I met loads of like friends who I still speak to today, and it was similar to like the fat face job. So I got to use a lot of the same skills. So it was a job I was comfortable in. So before, like I said, I struggled with jobs in the past because it was like new skill sets. But with this one, it was pretty much the exact same things I need to learn.
Was it harder to sell to Australians or to people in England?
Nah, easier because they can say, I mean, I'm going to butcher the accent, but they'd just say, "Are you from the UK?" And I say, "Yeah," and then that's it. Ring the tills.
What they would
Get
do,
'em-
people from the UK.
They'd love it. They'd absolutely love it. And then, I mean, they'd either love it or hate it. I mean, we get called pommies, which Australians like to throw about to people in the UK. But half the time, more than half the time, it would be a blessing. Just an icebreaker, I think. You know, when like you meet someone and they have like I was going to say sexy accent, but when you meet someone they have an accent, it's something to talk about.
Yes,
Like,
conversation started, definitely.
my friend my manager actually, who was there, came to the UK and stayed with me for a few nights. They threw like good Christmas parties. They'd give you like really good discounts, so you hardly had to spend a penny on any clothing.
If you said that working with all the people there, they're all 10 out of 10,
Mm.
what was so good about them? What made the job role so good from working at that place?
I think it was just the attitude people had. Like no one was there. because they needed to be there. Like everyone seemed like they wanted to be there, which, you know, morale is probably in my top three things in life. Like if you're with someone who's like in the UK, if you're working with someone who's been miserable or a Debbie Downer, then that's gonna rub off you and you're not gonna feel as good to be there. You know what I mean?
You're 100%
Um,
right. It's funny you say
mm,
that because recently, when I'm back in England, I'm obviously delivering Chinese food, but when I'm in America, I'm coaching
oh
football. It's
yeah.
quite different. But when I'm back in England delivering Chinese food, the people that I work with now are so amazing who work at the Chinese.
Mm,
All of them are Chinese. All of them will have banter with me. I'll have banter with them. I'll try and, pronounce words
mm,
in Chinese. Like I get free food and sometimes they cook it and it's kind of just done. And I like it to be a little bit well done. So like a Chinese word is
mm.
like sin choi, sin choice. It basically means well done. And I'll say sin choi. And then they'll laugh and then they'll try and pronounce English words, but the morale and the kind of the environment that they're all so happy and like it's just fun being around them.
That's
Every
it.
shift is enjoyable. It doesn't matter what you're doing in a way. So that sounds like a similar thing with you at the surf shop.
Well, that's it. I mean, like, we all don't want to, like, we'd all want to be somewhere else, whether it be with friends, with family, at the beach, at the pub, at the gym. I mean, we've all got to be at that workplace. So let's make it the best we can for each other. And then customers will see that and they'd want to be there as well. Like, the worst thing is when you go into a workplace and you can tell that the tension in that place is thick as fuck, you know, and you don't want to be there. So I think a good atmosphere for yourself, for the customers, for the crew is so important. And it reflects on sales, it reflects on development, like people staying within that company.
With working at the surf shop, did you find that it was like it seems like the most Australian job ever? Do you have any good stories about working there?
There was this one evening where the brand did a collaboration with a different brand called Globe. So we went to a venue, like a Rock City venue, and they were releasing a new skateboard, which had like a Bluetooth speaker in. So it was free food, free alcohol. They'd just be throwing skateboards, surfboards, trainers from the stage just for anyone to catch.
Just
And everyone
whacking
got a
people
free
in the
pair.
face.
Pretty much, like, you know, it said on the invite, bring your gum shields, bring your
Helmet.
head guard, bring your helmet. So they were just giving out all this free merch for everyone. And we all got free trainers, which and then everyone wore to work, then to sell on to customers. And we went out for my birthday with all of the staff as well, which was good. We went bowling, we went laser quest, went out
It's
for
good that they
dinner.
put effort in for you though, because I feel like people don't really put much effort in for each other here.
No. Yeah, I mean, it felt like everyone was like good mates with each other, not just workmates. So hopefully I'll be able to go back soon. I mean, after COVID and all that.
Your last job in Australia was Payless Shoes, is that right?
Oh, yeah, don't get me started
Oh,
on Payless shoes. So pretty much, so I left the surf shop because on your visa, you can only work with a company for a certain amount of months. So it was either leave that company then or to try and get sponsorship through that company. And I knew I wanted to come back to the UK. So I had to leave the surf shop, which I didn't want to do, but you just had to do it because of the law. So it was either go back to the Outback. So with the Outback, you saved a lot of money really quickly because they paid for all your meals, all your drinks. Well, not all your drinks, but all your meals, some of your drinks, your accommodation. So you didn't have to spend a penny if you didn't want to. So it was a really good way to save money or to stay in Sydney. And then I could still stay with my friends. And Ben Lord was still in Sydney at that stage. So, you know, still wanted to see him. So I got a job in Payless Shoes. So you go in and there's this wall, floor to ceiling full of shoes on the walls. I went in there. I had my interview actually on my birthday, but I'd already had a couple of drinks. And they rang me for my interview whilst I was on the beach, a bit pissed. And yeah, got through the interview. I went on my first day, got to the store, and the manager at the time slammed the keys on the desk. I went, "There you go, I'm leaving." And she just walked off. She just walked off. I'm there, like not even in uniform, just going, what the fuck do I do now? So I ended up becoming like the part manager for the store, but I'd not even had one day in yet.
Talk about being dropped in at the deep end.
So yeah, I mean, I know, right? I know. I mean, the policies at the workplace was a bit naff. So their policy was you could bring back any shoe with no receipt, no questions asked. So you'd get parents come in and say, "Oh, my son doesn't fit this shoe anymore. Can I get the size bigger?" So you could buy one pair of school shoes from year 1 to year 11 and just keep taking them back. It was mad. It was mad. Taxpayer shoes for you, trademark. Well, fun fact, the brand is actually non-existent anymore.
I can't believe it.
I know. Can you believe that? I remember when, like, the Facebook, you get a little news article on the Facebook page, and I read a few of the comments, and everyone in the comments are like, "Yeah, I worked with them. They treated me like shit. Blah blah blah."
Do you think it's fair to say then that the Australian government have found like a perfect balance between promoting traveling, filling job roles that people don't really want to do, and allowing people to enter their country to like benefit the locals instead of like taking jobs from locals, which sometimes might seem like in England that's the case, because I think that they have quite a good balance. Or did it seem like it was slave labor at time? Because I'm sure you didn't become wealthy from what you were doing working there.
No, I actually made millions whilst I was there.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Really?
I think I made. No, I think you're right. I mean, I can't speak on behalf of Australia, but the way they do it is you get a year given to you, like have fun, have a good time. But then if you want a second year, you have to do 3 months of regional work. So that's like you giving back to the communities, I'd say. So I'd say it's a good balance. They have a lot of international students in like the main cities. So like Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth. So I'd say, yeah, it's a good balance. Like it didn't feel like I was robbing them, and it didn't feel like they was robbing me. And the laws out there are a lot stricter than ours. Like you can't, what are they? You can't buy shots after 9 p.m. You can't, if you buy a shot, you have to drink it at the bar. Like say if you were sat at the table and I'd got us both a shot of Jaeger, then I can't take the shots back to the table. I think they were the two that stuck out. So then when my friend came over to the UK, I took him to Bar Bar. Have you been to Bar Bar in town?
I haven't, no.
It's like £1 a shot. You can get like 50 different kinds of shots, and you can get like a tree of shots, like a Christmas tree. And he'd walked over with two Christmas trees worth of shots, going, look, I could bring the shots to you. I was like, yes,
Just
yes,
going
you
all
can.
out.
You get a shot. You get a shot. You get a shot. It was pretty much one of those nights.
So you come back from Australia and you go back to Fat Face, is that right? Back where you were working
Yeah,
before?
yeah. I went back to Fat Face. It was all going good until COVID, and then I got made redundant in July. I want to say last year. So they got rid of. So my level was in between crew and management. So it was that middle ground, like supervisor position. And they got rid of my position across the whole company. Was it a blessing in disguise? I'm not sure yet. I wasn't surprised. When I got the phone call, I was upset, but as well, like relieved because I've been there for so long. It was like, oh, okay, like, my time's up. And I was really hungover when they told me.
Seems like a recurring theme in a lot of these stories.
Yeah, rumors are true, James. Rumors are true.
Now you're working at Co-op. Is that current job or is that one you've had since then as well?
Yeah. So I ended up so throughout COVID, I started doing like all these paintings. I ended up selling quite a lot and made quite a bit of money in from them. And that's not why I did it. I just did it because it was a hobby that people wanted to buy. So then that's why I was hungover. Today I got told I'd been let go from Fat Face because I'd just sold a painting the night before. And the people who came to collect it, we ended up having a couple of, drinks. And then ended up going to Co-op. So I pretty much just went online and just applied for every single job that was out there. Had a few interviews, didn't get them, and then had an interview for Co-op and got it. And I mean, it's secure, like jobs that are secure at the minute are supermarkets and banks, I'd say. Obviously, 100 more other jobs, but for me, they're the two jobs that are secure for me. So yeah, I love it. I mean, it has pros and cons, but so does every job. And when I'd only been there a week or so, one of the crew members, this was when you could allow people in like your back gardens and stuff like that. And I got a message like, oh, I didn't know how to ask you, but do you want to come around for a drink? And I went round their house with like a couple of the other crew members. So it is a good community, like where I am. And it's still in Nottingham, so I don't have to go far at all.
Yeah, that's good. So you're working at Co-op at the moment, and you're doing paintings on the side, which I've seen the paintings on Facebook and they look great. How can people view your paintings? Do you have like a gallery online, or is it just you paint them and sell them straight?
That is a good question. Thank you very much. So the orders on my Instagram. So how it started was, you get those like typical canvases from like B&M. It's like Chicago Bridge or the beach, and people just have them in their kitchen, bathroom, whatever. We had one in our lounge, but I just thought one day in lockdown, I just thought, oh, I'm just gonna paint over it. And then our friends came over and saw it and said, oh, where do you get that from? I said, oh, I did it. And then I ended up doing one for them. And it just kind of spiraled from there, really. So I ended up doing one for a friend and another friend, and then a friend of a friend. So they're all on my Instagram. So it's pretty much people just tell me what size they want and what colours they want. And then I just give it a go.
Are you still copying other people's, or are you making your own now?
No, it's all my own. It's all my own.
Oh, I thought you said you painted over one.
Oh, as in like painted over other canvases. Oh, yeah. So I do like buy my own canvases from like Hobbycraft and Wilco's. The amount of times I go into Wilco's a week is unforgivable. So yeah, it's unforgivable. I have to go in like with a new wig every week. Like, oh, it's me, it's not me. But I did a charity range in October. So I got 20 canvases, A4 size, and put them all together and did one giant painting. And then when it dried and you took the pieces apart, it was like a jigsaw. And I sold all of those for charity and gave half to Stonewall UK and gave half to NSPCC. So that was good because I don't have like a studio yet, and because the paintings take so long to dry, it had to dry on my bed, so I had to sleep on the couch for a couple of nights. But apart from that, it's going really good. I'm looking at getting a studio in town. I just need to wait. The studio is full at the minute, so as soon as someone leaves, I'm in there.
So you're going to take it more seriously then. So I was going to ask what's next. So is that next for you then?
So I'm slowly but surely turning the paintings into like a clothing brand. So it's only been a few months, but I am hopefully be able to print the paintings onto clothing and then sell that online. So I'm pretty much just learning a lot about the business and online businesses and how to make profit from that. So that is the next, the 5-year goal that people always ask. That is the 5-year goal.
And the good thing about the modern day is, social media and stuff, if you do go back to Australia, is it something that you would perhaps continue, and would it be popular in Australia?
Well, that's it. Like you said with social media, a lot of paintings that I've sold are to people I've not met before, are like friends of friends or family friends. So to use social media as a platform, as like an advertising platform, is so important. So it is something that I could take internationally, like work from Oz, but then use the UK as a customer base. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. So thanks for putting that thought in my head.
I'll take some commission from the idea, but yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
Coming to the end, we've come with some good advice so far. You've got being drunk to interviews, lying at interviews. There's lots of different advice that you're giving. What would be some work advice you give to people? Because we've had quite a split between getting jobs on base of people that and they've got you a job, and it sounds like every job you've had has been from handing out your CV and being there and working to gain relationships with people that through dates of birth, like you said. But what would your advice be in the working world then for people listening?
So for people out there, I would say apply for everything and anything until you get what you want, until you get what you enjoy. There's nothing wrong with taking little steps to get to the big step. Like if it wasn't for lockdown, I wouldn't have started painting. And then if it wasn't for, being made redundant, I wouldn't have thought about expanding that idea. So I always think, things happen for a reason. So don't stress. I mean, if you can pay your rent, pay your bills, you know, put food on your plate, all that cliche shit, then you're doing good. Like people always think, oh, in 3 years I want a house, or in 3 years I want kids, marriage, or 3 years I want that dream job. But if you're happy today, I think that's the most important thing. So that would be my key. If you're happy today, don't stress about the future because you can't predict it.
I think that's a great way to come near the end. And I think a lot of my interviews, a regret I have is, you know, a couple of them afterwards I've spoke to and they're like, I wish I said this story, I wish I said this story. And it's kind of me flying through the interview and trying to keep us on track. So is there any random stories that you wanted to talk about that I kind of went past that you wanted to share just to finish off?
So I'd recommend it to anyone. I mean, if people are thinking, oh, I don't want to go Oz or anywhere for like, you know, gap year because of ABC, just do it. Like, you know, I know it's cliche, but you only live one life, you know. That's what the people say. Just go and do it. You know, home is always going to be there. It
I
was a
think
bit weird.
there's a few things that people say, go and do this, go and do that, and people regret it. But I've never heard anyone regret traveling.
That's it. Like, do you wish you were not in the UK? Like, do you wish you were still like in America or Africa or?
Well, yeah, I mean, I do wish I was traveling, and I think that traveling does open your eyes to the world. And I think the only thing it can do is either make you realize that you don't want to stay around here, or make you realize what you do want to do if you do stay around here. It gives you clarity.
Yeah. Like people say to me, like, "Oh, why aren't you back in Oz?" And it's like I didn't go there because I hated the UK. Like, I didn't go there because I didn't have a good life. Like, I have a great life here, and I didn't leave Oz because I hated it. You know, and I think a lot of people either leave the UK because they hate it, and that wasn't the reason for me. So, and I think that is it.
Well, it's been great speaking to you, and it's nice
Yeah,
to have
man.
someone on again. That's I think we've had with every guest personality, and you've been very different to everyone else, and I think that's what's trying to achieve with every conversation that I have. And I appreciate you giving me your time and sharing the stories and advice that you've given. It's been good fun having you on.
Yeah, man, I want to say well done to you for starting this. Like, what made you think to start this podcast? Like, what encouraged you? What inspired you?
I've always been interested in hearing people's stories on why they're at work and what they do at work and the stories that they have at work. Because I think that people don't purposely live a boring life. People don't purposely pick boring jobs. There's a story and a reason behind everything. So I think it's to put a spotlight on why people do certain things and to remove the stigma of a job title. You know, some people think that, you know, if I tell someone I'm a Chinese delivery driver, they don't take me that seriously. But when I say I'm a
Well, that's it.
professional
Yeah.
soccer coach in America, they think I'm a big time person. But I'm the same
Yeah.
person delivering Chinese as I am, you know, coaching football in America. So I think that it's a spotlight on why people do certain jobs, and there's more to a job than that person. And it's called the Average Person Podcast to show you that no person is actually average.
Spot on. I think I'm the same. You know, when I used to say like, "Oh, I work in retail," people go, "Oh, retail, just hanging up clothes." But there's so much more to it, and I think people forget that. Like, same with you with your delivery driving. Like, people put it in a box, and we shouldn't be putting jobs in a box because you provide that service. Like, you provide that service for someone who would order Chinese every Friday night, but then they slate that job. So,
Exactly.
you know, we all make that world go round.
Not everyone
Someone's
can
got
be
to
an
have
astronaut.
exactly.
Maybe when all this madness is over, we can meet up and have some shots like you spoke about.
Yeah, and we'll all apply for jobs.
Yeah. Thanks again, Joe.
We'll apply for Hooters. All right, cheers, James. See
See
you.
you. Bye.